Peace and gratitude. This is Reverend Dr. Abraham, or Reverend Dr. Kamara Falade Banderanwa. Are you titled or entitled? Today is Sunday, July 27, 2025. This is evidence part 3. I want to talk about two. In the description box is my email. If there are any questions that you all may have that you would like me to address in another video. But I want to address this. This is coming up in my spirit. In the video where the video entitled addressing her evidence, and I mentioned to you that the day that the neighbor's house burned down and I came to check on the condition of my house, she said aloud that I tried to kill her baby. I tried to kill her son. Even to this day, I can show you all footage. If you thought that I was capable of that, if she thought, and I go in between saying addressing her as first person and third person, because I know she'll listen to this. That's why I go between first and third person when referring to her. But if you really thought that, and I mean up until this day, today is Sunday, July 27, 2025. If you really thought that I was a danger to your child to the point that I would take your child's life physically, if you thought that, why do you allow your child to ride his bike in front of my house? I have seen him on my lawn playing with other neighborhood children, just as free as he wanna be, as he should be, because he is a child, playing on my front lawn with other children in the neighborhood. So now she has I have seen him turn around in my driveway with his bike, but she does stop that. She does tell him to don't, turn around in the driveway. But please explain on several occasions, and I mean up until this day, he is playing in front of my house with the neighborhood children. And you're not telling him to get away from the house, to come to nothing. And if you're you just feel so strongly and so deeply that I have the capacity to unalive your child, you wouldn't have your child come nowhere near my house at all. Your eyes would be on him at all times. And if they weren't on him at all times, you would have made it so very clear to him behind closed doors not to come nowhere near my property, because you fear that I will unalive your child. So I want to speak on that. I have proof of all of that, because I'm only addressing the facts. So when she says something or accuses me of things, makes accusations against me and alleges that I'm capable of doing certain things, I always have proof that contradicts it. Because I don't know any parent that, if they truly believe a person is dangerous, would allow their child to be anywhere near that person or near that person's property at all, if you really truly believe that I was that dangerous. Wanted to address that. Okay, so because I'm only sticking with facts and I'm asking questions. I'm only sticking with the facts. I'm asking questions based on what has come out of the Neighborhood Block Club's president's mouth versus the facts that I have, the physical evidence that I have. It's not making sense. Okay, so That's my prayer and intention. As I'm sharing this information with you, it's not from a catty perspective, a mean girl perspective. It is with facts and evidence. And it is, if you want to hold yourself to a standard, once we give ourselves titles, we are saying that we are holding ourselves to a standard. If you are publicly giving yourself a title, you are publicly holding yourself to a standard. And that means that you are opening the door up for anybody to give you constructive criticism and to say, hey, you're not upholding the standard that you have set for yourself. They're holding you accountable. Ladies and gentlemen, that is why I'm telling you, even though as a child I knew what my calling was, what my purpose was, that is why it took me so long, to my mid to late 40s, to go and get ordained as a reverend, to go and get my doctorate degree, because I knew, but I didn't know until later on, but I knew enough that the crown was going to be heavy. And that once I gave myself that title and I publicly set that standard for myself by addressing myself as that title, that anybody could hold me accountable. And I had to chalk it up and deal with it. That is why I'm going to be very honest with y'all. That's why I'm not married. And that is why I'm not a mother. Because I don't feel that I can hold up to that standard of the title of wife, and I can hold up to that standard of that title as mother. Because heavy is the crown. Heavy is the crown. Because now that I know what I know, I'm not going out there willy-nilly to be called nobody's mama. And I'm not going out there willy-nilly to be called nobody's wife, because heavy is the crown. Because now I'm being held accountable. Now I'm saying that I'm holding myself to the standard of being a wife and the standard of being a mother. So this is not about being a mean girl, being catty, none of that. You, Neighborhood Block Club president, you have publicly said that that's what you are. You have assumed the role, and you have said that this is the standard that you want people to hold you up. This is the standard that you want people to uphold for you. And this is what I'm doing. Sticking straight to the facts. No emotionalism, no mean girlness. Sticking straight to the facts with evidence. All right, so in 2023, the PPO was issued. I'm not going to read it because all the videos that I showed you, that's what I used to get the PPO. So it makes no sense for me to read it to you because you already saw what the evidence of what I put in the PPO. So it's no sense in being redundant and wasting your time in reading it. That was how I was able to get the PPO. All of the videos, all of the police reports that I share with you in part 2 and part 1 of the evidence, that is what I used in the PPO, and that's how I was granted the PPO in 2023. I will tell you this, I was granted the PPO I was granted the PPO on June 30th, 2023, and it expired on June 30th, 2024. That's as much as identifying information I can give you legally when it comes to a PPO. So I'm not going to go into that. But what I will read to you is the motion to dismiss. So when she took me to court on February 13th, 2024 for her PPO against me, I did a motion to dismiss. I gave her a week to respond. Okay, I gave her a week to respond. or to serve me the PPO, because you have 14 days from the time the PPO was served to do a motion to dismiss. So I gave her a week. I never received the PPO. She never gave me a hard copy of it with a judge signature attached to it. So I got busy and I just did my motion to dismiss. And the motion to dismiss was read, or it was opened by the court, because like I said on my email, I have a feature where it will tell me that the email was opened. It tells me the date and time in which the email was opened. So the court did open it. So I'm going to read to you, without giving any identifying information, what I submitted to the court in my motion to dismiss. All right, so let's get into the motion to dismiss. So, like I said, I waited a week before, I submitted my motion to dismiss, because what I wasn't gonna do was to sit there and do nothing, knowing that she was lying under oath in a court of law. And I'm not going to now. I'm the type of person, if I did anything that you felt like put your life or your family's life in danger, and it deserved and it warranted a PPO, fine. I would have took it. But the fact that everything that it was lies. It was just all lies. So, and I will say this. Spirit did reveal to me that the reason she did that, it was deeper than a tit for tat. It was, I want to know what you know. And if this is the way I gotta get to talk to you, because go back and listen to the other videos, she refuses to talk to me. She refuses to sit down and talk. So her attempting to get the PPO granted toward me was a way to see what I was gonna say. What kind of information did I know? As far as like with the neighbor and his house burning down, and hitting, according to her, hitting the neighbor with my vehicle. Like she wanted information, and she still didn't get it. Because during the PPO petition hearing, the judge clearly told her, like, we're only here to discuss what the defendant, which was me, has done to you to warrant a PPO. He said anything else, you would have to file a separate PPO against, against those people that you're talking about. Or he was like, that's just a whole totally different case. We're not going to even address that. So Spirit did confirm. It was like, yeah, she's trying to find out what you know. And she did it through this. And she still didn't get any information, because the judge was like, we're not even talking about that. What did she do to you? We cannot talk about what you're saying that she supposedly did to someone else. The PPO is, what did she do to you? All right, so let's talk about the motion to dismiss. So here we are. I am challenging the PPO. Now, mind you, I'm going to repeat it again. I submitted this to the court. It was open. I got the receipt that it was opened, but no one ever responded to me. And I never received a copy of the PPO that the judge claimed that he granted to her. I never was served with the PPO. And that's it. I'm not going to assume anything, because I said I wasn't going to assume the 4 agreements. Don't make assumptions. So, okay. I am challenging the PPO granted to the respondent on Tuesday, February 13, 2024 by the Honorable, and I won't mention his name, the Honorable W.H. During the February 13, 2024 PPO hearing, and as stated in the verified addendum to petition for PPO submitted by the respondent testified, I appeared at her expungement hearing on December 8, 2023, creating confusion and disruption. I appeared at her expungement hearing at the request of the prosecuting attorney, DMK. and was given permission to speak by the Honorable KJC, thereby refuting the respondent's claim that I was disruptive and created confusion. Further, the respondent asserted under oath at the February 13, 2024 PPO hearing that at her December 8, 2023 expungement hearing, I perjured myself stating that I was the victim of the crime she committed in 2002. This was a blatant lie. The court transcript of her expungement hearing attests that I am on record clearly stating my relationship to the defendant, and it was not as the victim of the 2002 crime. Now, I did petition the court for the transcript for her expungement hearing, and no one ever got back with me. I have receipts to prove that. Because I was there to testify, I had a right to get a copy of the transcript, to prove that I did not say that I was the victim of the crime that she originally committed in 2002. Okay. Additionally, the respondent stated at the February 13, 2024 PPO hearing under oath, the reason her expungement hearing was rescheduled was because I was in her personal business and showed up at her expungement hearing, which she didn't tell me about, and the judge rescheduled so that she could take care of this matter with me. This was a blatant lie. The court transcript of her expungement hearing attests the judge asked the respondent and her lawyer 3 times during the hearing has she had any contact with the police since her original conviction. She responded no. Prosecuting attorney K then presented to the court evidence that the respondent had an active warrant, and I'm just going to leave it at that, on charges of blank, blank, blank. I'm not going to repeat that. The respondent and her lawyer asserted they were unaware of this information. The judge then pulled the information on his computer and then told the respondent he was rescheduling her hearing to January 5th, 2024 so that she could take care of her outstanding warrant. Evidence of a person's criminal activity is public information. When I reached out to the court regarding the respondent's expungement hearing on December 8, 2023, after using the court's public online case search tool, I was acting as an advocate for my personal safety after being told countless times from law enforcement that they could not take action against the respondent for her violating my PPO against her since she had not been properly served the PPO, which law enforcement explained that properly served was for a third party to directly place the PPO in the respondent's hand. So let me stop there. I have evidence that because I paid a private processing server to serve her the PPO, and they sent me an email documenting the dates and times and what happened when they attempted to serve the PPO. I received a copy of it, and they submitted a copy to the court, a notarized copy to the court. And in the copy that they gave me and the court, they concluded that the defendant, the Neighborhood Block Club president, was clearly evading service. This is what they put in the document. So when I realized how she was playing it, I had to start looking out for myself. Because legally, technically, I could not get her on violating her PPO because technically she hadn't been served. So I had to start figuring out how can I get this woman to stop this behavior. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't know any of this. All of this was spirit directed. Like, I didn't know that you could go to a if you knew the court and you knew the person's name, that you could put in the information and this was public information. I'm telling you, all day, spirit, all day spirit. So I had to start being an advocate for myself because this woman would not quit. I mean, throwing glass at the house, verbally harassing me. I mean, the summer of 2023, she was on 1,000. So I was experiencing this
almost every other day. And if it wasn't every other day, it was at least once or twice a week during the summer of 2023. So I had to start being an advocate for myself, being a detective for myself, and protecting myself. So once I realized, oh, she got an expungement hearing coming up, I was like, okay, who do I need to talk to? And I'm telling you, Holy Spirit led me every step of the way. And here's my thing. If you knew, if you knew that you were trying to get your record expunged, you knew you were going back and forth to court for it, why would you do all these things to me? Why? Why would you do these things to me? And you knew that the condition to get your record expunged was that you were not to have any contact with the police. You were supposed to show that you were a changed person, that you were an upright citizen. So why would you do that? That doesn't make sense to me. You knew that you wanted to get your record expunged. You knew this. So why were you doing this to me? Why were you doing this to me? I'm not going to make assumptions. I'm putting that question out for her to answer. Why would you do this? Why would you throw glass at my house? Why would you verbally harass me and intimidate me when you knew you were attempting to get your record expunged? Because you wanted to move forward in your life and you didn't want your past to continue to haunt you and to continue to keep you captive or keep you in prison. So why would you do that? Why? Only she can answer that question. Only she can answer that question. Only she can answer that question. Because I'm not going to make assumptions. I'm not going to make assumptions. I'm putting that question out for her to answer. I'm putting that question out for her to answer. I'm not going to make assumptions. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not going to make assumptions. Excuse the background noise. I'm not going to make assumptions. All right, so let's continue. Yet, when I paid a third-party processing server to serve the respondent, it was documented the respondent refused service. So the respondent refused service, but she continued to threaten, intimidate, and harass me physically and verbally, and then attempted to appear in court on December 8, 2023 at her expungement hearing as, in her words, a community activist and being positive. Yet, outside the courtroom, her behavior toward me was destructive and malicious, and she had an active warrant for her arrest at the time for blank. Thus, I challenged to terminate this PPO and asked the court, was I to be abused by the respondent in private while she publicly evaded and refused to take accountability of her criminal actions toward me by refusing to be served my PPO against her, and while publicly attempting to falsely present herself as a changed member of society at her December 8, 2023 expungement hearing? The second reason I am challenging the PPO granted to the respondent on Tuesday, February 13, 2024 by the Honorable W.H. is the contradictory and false evidence presented by the respondent in the verified addendum to petition for a PPO that on December 8, 2023, I went to her job with accusations trying to get her fired and that management informed her. She later stated in the same document that on December 8, 2023, I appeared in the courtroom of her expungement hearing. First of all, I have no knowledge of where the respondent is employed, and as I stated under oath at the February 13, 2024 PPO hearing, how could I appear at her place of employment when I was at her expungement hearing? The third reason I am challenging the PPO granted to the respondent on Tuesday, February 13, 2024 by the Honorable W.H. are for misleading statements the respondent stated under oath at the February 13, 2024 PPO hearing that my security cameras are directly facing her home and I am recording her every movement 24 hours a day. My security cameras have been in the same location since I purchased my home in June 2018 and are positioned to monitor movement in my driveway and backyard. At that time, it was a house between the respondent and I. Therefore, the security cameras could not be seen by the respondent. Currently, there is a vacant lot between us. Therefore, logically, the respondent has a clear, direct view of my cameras, which was not previously seen by the respondent because a house was obstructing her view of the cameras before. Additionally, the cameras record and only produce an AI-generated warning message of a person being recorded when the subject is within the field range of motion of the cameras, which is within 1 to 2 feet of my property. Also, the security camera served as a tool of safety and evidence when the respondent threw taco sauce, hot sauce, relish, sliced apples, vodka, and wine bottles, a rock and glass container at me in my home. Therefore, it is unreasonable for the respondent to use my security cameras, a home security feature for my safety, and whose purpose is to record activity and protect my person, vehicle, home, and possessions as a basis for a PPO against me. Let me stop there. The very thing that she asked me about, when it was a house in between us and that neighbor climbed on a ladder to hook up a line so that he could illegally hook up his lights, he took a ladder along with another person and he had a wire and he climbed that ladder to hook up to her pole in her backyard so he could illegally turn on the lights. Those very same cameras, you asked me when I got home from work, did the cameras pick him up stealing the electricity from your pole? So those very same cameras were useful to you. But now, when we had the PPO hearing, you want to weaponize those cameras against me. But they were useful to you when you needed to catch this neighbor in the act for stealing electricity from you. But now you want to weaponize those cameras against me. On top of that, currently, she now has cameras on the side of her house. Which I'm not even mad at. That's what you're supposed to do. That's your right to do, to protect you and your family and your property. But isn't it interesting, during this PPO hearing, you had such a problem with my cameras. You weaponized my cameras against me, and if it wasn't for those cameras, I wouldn't have caught you in the act of you verbally harassing me, intimidating me, threatening my life, and throwing glass objects at my house. Thank God I had those cameras. But you attempted to weaponize those cameras against me in your PPO petition hearing, but then now you turn around and now you got cameras on the side of your house. Make it make sense. Let me continue. The fourth reason I am challenging the PPO granted to the respondent on Tuesday, February 13, 2024 by the Honorable W.H. are the blatant lies stated in the verified addendum to petition for a PPO that the respondent does not speak with me and that I came back to my home in 2023 bothering her. Now, go back to the video where I read from you her PPO, and that's what she stated. She stated that she does not speak to me. She does not speak with me. And I came back to my home in 2023 bothering her. I have 9 videos where the respondent initiated verbal, intimidating, and harassing communication and threatening physical contact with me while I was minding my business. So she lied once again. She said, at the PPO petition hearing on February 13, 2024, she said on record, I don't even talk to her. I don't say anything to her. But I got 9 incidences where you initiated. I wasn't saying anything to you. I was looking straight ahead. I was looking down, and you initiated contact with me. This verbal, intimidating, and harassing communication and threatening physical contact precipitated a PPO being granted to me against her. And this verbal, intimidating, and harassing communication and threatening physical contact occurred after my PPO was granted against her. And I then go and list. I said Thursday, May 4th, 2023, 4:40 p.m. The respondent stated, if I wasn't asleep, I would have told you, bitch, to clean this shit up. You coming over here dirtying up the neighborhood. Mind you, I wasn't even outside. I was in my house. And she's saying this aloud. I have video footage of all of this. The respondent directed this comment to me when the contractor left debris on my property to attend a family emergency. Sunday, September 24th, 2023, at 12:50 to 12:51 p.m., the respondent threw a wine bottle at the side of my home. Friday, October 6th, 2023, at 3:47 p.m., the respondent stated, you move when I let you move, bitch. The respondent made this comment to me as I was placing my trash can at the side of my home. She yelled that out the side of her window, because the side of her window and her side door faces my driveway. This is what she yelled to me as I was taking my trash can to the side of my house after the trash had been picked up for the day. The most recent incident of the respondent initiating verbal intimidation and harassing communication with me when I was minding my business was twice on Saturday, January 13, 2024. This was 7 months after my PPO was granted against her. The police were called. The respondent was out on bond, and according to her bond conditions, was to have no contact with 14868 Littlefield, the exact location in which she yelled at me to come outside the next time she was outside with my bitch ass. In summary, a PPO was granted to the respondent against me because, in her words, I was in her personal business and caused disruption and confusion at her expungement hearing. On the contrary, the respondent was granted a PPO against me because the respondent made the self-sabotaging decision to engage in behavior that caused her to be charged with blank. And instead of being self-accountable, the respondent made the decision to blame me. This is why I'm challenging for her PPO against me to be terminated, because it was granted to her on a false premise that I was the one who affected her family by appearing at her expungement hearing, when I have bore the evidence of proof that her expungement hearing would have been rescheduled because she had an active warrant for her arrest for blank at the time of her expungement hearing. Finally, this is not a case of me being a woman and it being presumed by the court of law enforcement that I'm interacting with a neighbor who is also a woman out of imbalanced hormones and incompetent emotional intelligence that is a predisposition of my presumably flawed genetic makeup as a biological female. Or I am being a bitter, vindictive, bratty, sore loser. The countless evidence that I have presented to the court and to DPD clearly indicates that my personal safety and mental health have been victimized by the respondent's actions. For the court to grant the respondent a PPO against me based on blatant lies and compromise my livelihood and professional and personal reputation, even after I submitted evidence through email Monday, February 12, 2024, and under oath, PPO hearing on February 13, 2024, exposing the lies of the respondent, deserves questioning, reconsideration, and additional scrutiny, which this challenge to terminate the PPO is petitioning the court to do. I operated within the legal system and bore the burden of proof with integrity and truth. The respondent did not. To endure 10 months of abusive mistreatment by the respondent with documented evidence of this mistreatment provided to the court and DPD, which is the Detroit Police Department, yet to allow the respondent to lie, and the evidence I have consistently presented for the past 10 months speaks to her lies and dishonesty, while simultaneously the respondent is currently charged with blank, and still grant her the motion of a PPO against me, speaks to the threat of an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And that was what I wrote in my motion to dismiss to the court for her PPO. That's what I wrote. That's what I wrote. And I'm going to reiterate that it was opened by the court. I have a red receipt to prove it. And I have a receipt saying that it was opened. by the court, and I didn't get a response. And I'm going to reiterate, I never was served a copy of the PPO that the judge said that he granted at the hearing on February 13, 2024. I never received a copy of it with his signature on it. So at this point, because I never received a copy, I can't say legally or for certain that he actually granted her the PPO. So that is the motion to dismiss. That was my response to her 2024 PPO. I have one more video to show you for evidence, and then I will do my closing statements or my closing arguments. Until next time, I just thank you. I thank you so much. I thank you so much for watching all of the videos. If you have any questions, my email is in the description box. And if I feel as if the questions are really good questions, and if I feel like the questions are really good questions that you submit to my email, I will do a separate video answering those questions. And like I said, I'm only presenting my side, because once a person introduces you or puts you in their story, once a person makes you a character in their story, you are under every obligation and right to respond. Once a person sets a standard for themselves publicly, you are now under obligation to hold that person accountable for the standard that they have set for themselves. I am not holding a standard to her that she has not set for herself. She has publicly said that she is the Neighborhood Block Club president. So since you have publicly said that, I am holding you to that standard, and I am now asking you, why are you harassing me? Where did all this come from? I have given proof and evidence that I attempted to reconcile with you, to come up with a resolution, and I have received nothing in return in order to try to work this thing out. And here is your opportunity to prove me wrong. So another video will be coming more than likely probably tomorrow. The last two videos will be tomorrow, and then I'm done with it. Because don't present yourself in a standard and you don't hold yourself to it, and you're not held accountable. So until next time, stay blessed, stay grateful, and stay aware.